Hello, greetings, Earthlings. Welcome back to AGE Live, aka Ghost Stories with the Guides. My name is Renee, and this is
Dusty. Nope.
Dusty. I did it the right way.
You did.
I did. I rock. I'm the best. So we have a lot of ghoulish things in store for you this evening. If you just happened to miss our last stream, Evil Glare, but also go watch it. It was tonight. We're going to be talking about demonic teddy bear and a 2-pound slab of bacon. Dusty, you have any idea what that means?
Not really, but I'm interested.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So to kick off things, why don't we talk about the haunted happenings, shall we? Oh, before we get into the haunted happenings, let me tell you. We are doing ghost tours, if you did not know. We're doing ghost tours. We're following our CDC guidelines. That means 9 people per tour plus 1 ghost tour guide. We've been doing them all week. We've had a great last week of tours. Really great photos that have been taken on tours. And it's really great to just see you guys again. So definitely go buy your tickets if you're interested in taking a ghost tour in St. Augustine. Hi, Aunt Jen. And hi, Missy.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Who else? Bring it on.
So these are our viewers, our family, right? Nobody else watches.
We have Georgia Meyer. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She's been watching too. So Roger will not be here this week though, but we also have Georgia. So we have our people. Yeah, go on www.staugustineghosttours.net to buy tickets. I almost made it. I'm almost so close to almost making it a correct sentence.
You got the right amount of W's this time. That's all that matters.
I did this time. So let's go ahead and move on to the haunted happenings. Haunted happenings are usually sent in from you guys, our viewers. Please send our haunted stories. We'd love to hear from you. And pictures too. If you have pictures, we love pictures. So Veronica M. said, my sister's house has always seemed to be haunted. Her family is always experiencing things. When my niece was about 4, she would always talk about the woman in the window. She always saw her and would speak to her, and I used to watch her during the day at my house. Oh, Roger is here. Oh, hey, Roger. We were missing you. I was just saying to them, we don't have Roger. Danilo, hey.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. She always saw her and would speak to her. I used to watch her during the day at my house. The sister, I guess, like the niece. The grammar in this was a little funky, but I did my best to fix it. So she would watch the niece. I misunderstood her one day, and I thought she was talking about her reflection. And I kept telling her, no, that's just Sydney, which was the niece. So she thought I was telling her that the ghost name was Sydney. After pointing that out, she always referred to the woman in the window as Sydney. Well, one day I had to pick up a pair of glasses from Lynn's Crafters, and my sister came to meet me in the parking lot to give me money. As I am standing outside her car window, one of her older children calls home to ask a question. The older child lets my 4-year-old niece talk to her mom, on the phone, as we're sitting in the parking lot and I'm standing outside the window. My niece says, are you giving something to Aunt Ronica? And my sister said, yeah, she was, and she asked how she knew. And my niece replied, well, she's standing by your car window. And my sister asked how she knew that. And my niece said, oh, Sydney told me. Ooh, that is freaky. It was super strange. As she grew a little older, she no longer would see her, but it was just creepy to, I guess, recall that event. Yeah, so she was saying that pretty much she needed money and called the house, and the 4-year-old that wasn't even around knew that Veronica was calling.
So,
and like what she wanted.
Let's get back into Renee and Dusty's rules for hauntings and horrors here.
Okay.
Imaginary friends don't exist. Okay, they're not imaginary usually.
Nope.
Pay attention to your kids and animals.
I just said this on my tour last night. I said that to people. I said, usually if your child is talking to an imaginary friend, they're not so imaginary. Every time I've talked to a person with an imaginary friend, like, they've always said, oh, but they were, like, super real to me. It was always like they were super real. And I don't know. There's, like, some psychology behind imaginary friends, but not a whole lot of scientific evidence to back up the psychological theories. Pretty much what people say, like, in the science field about imaginary friends is, oh, it's your brain, which I mean, I could say that about anything. Like,
The science of imaginary
it's
friends.
just like the epilepsy excuse in theory. It's not a great excuse, you know? But yeah.
Run.
Our next haunted happening comes from Mallory D. She said, "Hi Renee." Hi Mallory. I did have an imaginary friend named Linda. We'll save that story for another time.
I say, are you sure they were imaginary?
I don't know.
Are we talking Bing Bong style or like a person?
Okay, so I'll tell like a briefed version. I had an imaginary friend named Linda, and I was like seven or 8, maybe a little younger, 6. And we moved into this house in New Jersey, and that's when Linda like came up as soon as we moved into the house. And Linda had like a whole family, and so my mom just like, you know, fed into it and played along. She'd be like, "Oh, are you and Linda gonna play?" And like I'd be like, "No, Linda's really sad." And she'd be like, "Oh, well, why is Linda sad?" And I'd be like, "Oh, because, you know, her husband died and she lost her job. She's out of work." And I started saying like crazy stuff. Like, I don't want to get into too much. No, this isn't the same haunted house. I've lived in like several places. Maybe I'm just like a strange person, but like I've had several haunted experiences. This was like the first house I remember living in. But pretty much I said that Linda had like committed suicide and that she killed her family.
And you're 6.
I was 6, yeah. And my mom was like, and I like, okay. So it was just a really, I don't know, it was really creepy. I would talk to Linda on the phone. It was super weird.
So we're going to say that Linda was not imaginary.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really remember too much of it. I wish I did, but I do remember like my mom like was like, maybe you shouldn't play with Linda anymore.
Well, you know that
talk to your imaginary friend.
They say that children usually 6 and younger are a lot more susceptible to experiencing things of the paranormal. And that's usually, I guess, why imaginary friends are like, you know.
I'd say so. Mallory D says, "Hi Renee, here's a very real story for you. I own a cleaning company and I used to clean a 7,000 square foot office building in Southwest Missouri for a couple of years. They had a kitchen."
I'm sorry. Missouri.
How is that not how you say Missouri?
I don't know. It was just funny. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right.
Go ahead.
They had a kitchen with access to an attic, and I would always get weird feelings when I was in there. One time during the day, I was cleaning the kitchen and nobody was there. I watched a pot lid literally raise up out of the sink and be set down on the dish rack. A helpful ghost, if you will. He was doing the dishes.
Hey, it's fine by me, ghost. That's okay.
This was the start of something horrible. He would always clean the dishes. No. Oh, yeah, double tap.
And the walls would ooze green slime.
So something horrible. I typically cleaned at night, and I always had someone there with me, like an actual person. I was cleaning a bathroom, and I locked it from the inside. Oh, no, I was cleaning a bathroom, and it locked itself from the inside. Oh. All of a sudden, the door shut, and I just couldn't get out. The door was unlocked, and the other person with me was upstairs. So she's saying that the door seemingly was locked, like she couldn't get it to open, but when she looked at the lock, it was open. So that's freaky. My vacuum would constantly stop working all the time and still be plugged in.
That's funny.
A fork was thrown at me, just absolutely crazy stuff. I asked the owners about it, and they said that they had seen a man in a maroon shirt in the window and felt weird things about him before. A month later, I was cleaning a window and I saw this man in the maroon shirt standing directly behind me. I literally broke down in tears and started to run out of the building. After that, I would go into that building, I would get scratched, I would get pinched, and you would see the marks on my body. There was no doubt about it. At one point, we were upstairs while we were vacuuming, and all of a sudden, we both heard a loud, deep male voice yell, "Get out!" I ended up having a ghost hunting team come in, and it got even crazier and worse. They got a ton of evidence. They wanted to come back a second time. The second time, they felt compelled to go into the attic. I had to go with them, of course, and I had no idea what was in that attic, but it was surely evil. It was right on top of me. I couldn't breathe. I fell down the attic stairs, wow, and I never came back. Yeah, I don't know. That story escalated quite a bit. It went from like, oh, it's a friendly ghost. He's helping
doing
with the dishes.
Yeah.
And
pushing me down the attic stairs.
Pushing you down the stairs. I don't know. Maybe she didn't do something right. Maybe she like I don't know, maybe she's
She
talking some
brought
smack
in
or something about him.
investigators. I'm sure that's like
I don't know. Is that insulting to spirits? I feel like spirits like
it's like the
attention.
first step, to getting rid of a spirit. Maybe, kind of like the first thing is acceptance, but
I
this
guess.
is bringing in first thing is bringing in paranormal investigators to like get rid of. I don't know. I mean, I'd bringing people into my house. I'd be like, who are they? Get them out. Like, oh.
Yeah, I guess so too. I don't know if I would throw somebody down the stairs over it. Is the
It
thing.
depends on the day. I think
True. If it was Zach Baggins, maybe.
Anyway, another rule that we're gonna throw out here, though, if you have a basement, forget it. Forget it exists. Lock it. Don't go down there.
Yeah.
Same thing with an attic.
Well, yeah, it's same thing with a second floor. Like just in the horror movies, like if you
Same
go
thing with a second
upstairs
floor. You have enough stairs.
downstairs,
Forget it. Don't go up there. Never
Don't
go
do
upstairs.
that. No.
Just get a one-story house the rest of your life.
Run. No, just go out the front door. Anyway.
Out the door, not up the stairs, right?
Yes, out the door, not up the stairs. This actually, I was talking to a woman on my ghost tour last night. Her name was Imelda, and she had a very interesting vibe to her and just like an interesting backstory. And she, first thing she asked me, I said, hey guys, how you doing? She said, oh, you're a ghost tour guide. I said, yeah, I'm your ghost tour guide. Welcome. She said, oh, I'm really nervous about this tour. And me, I'm just kind of like, oh, don't be nervous. It'll be fine. I'm really cool. And she was like, no, I'm kidding. She didn't do that. But she was like, no, that's not why I'm worried. I just, I've had some paranormal experiences that I don't know if I'm comfortable with the ghost tour, but I'm going to try. And I was like, all right, well, now I need to know what's happened. And I was telling her about the live stream, and she told me that she had something evil attached to her. So when anybody says this, of course, I'm like, okay, you have something evil attached to you. Maybe it's just, an angry ghost that followed you from somewhere, or you messing with something, like that kind of thing. But she got into some serious stuff. She was telling me that when she was younger, her whole family is very involved into Santeria. Santeria is the equivalent of voodoo. It is hoodoo. It is voodoo, that whole area of like magic. That's what Santeria is. And it's just like the Hispanic version of it. So she was saying to me that when her grandmother was giving birth, she had midwives. And one of her midwives was a, I guess, Santerian witch. And the witch told the grandmother and like blessed her with blood, saying like, you and your children's children will always have abilities. They will continue to have abilities. And she blessed her with the blood, and she gave birth to Imelda's mom. And then, like Imelda was saying, she was like, I don't know what my powers were. I don't really know what it was. But then we later talked about how she might be like empathic and whatnot. And so she was saying that she got really sucked into Santeria, and that eventually she was like the top tier. She was like pretty much a Santerian priestess, and that she would perform rituals and black magic on individuals that were coming to her, like asking for like needs and stuff. So for instance, she was telling me that one of the people that came to her, they had a boyfriend. It was a girl that had a boyfriend that was cheating on her and just didn't love her anymore. And she was crying and asking Imelda if there was anything that she could do. And so she was like, yeah, let's, do a sacrifice to, the spirits and the spirit guides, and we'll ask them to perform this spell. And so she had to sacrifice a chicken. That's pretty popular with Santeria. And she does a spell for the girl, right? She asked permission. But she was saying to me, while it sounds cool and like things can happen, Santeria can very much work in your favor, she said that Santeria always takes. And so she was explaining to me, the girl got her boyfriend. The boyfriend like started taking her out on dates more, started putting in more effort. But about 9 months to a year later, the girl was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and died just 3 months after that. So
definitely not worth the price.
That's what she said. She said that it started to affect her family, because her family, again, they were heavily into Santeria, and they would always be asking her for stuff since she was so high up. And she started to see her family's health be affected from it. There was always that consequence that she was seeing. And so she got out of it. She compared it kind of to a cult. I mean, I don't want to say, cult, because it can mean some really negative things, but she kind of compared it to that in a way. And so, yeah, she had something negative attached to her, and she kind of related it to like using Ouija boards and Santeria, and just, she was a very interesting individual, and she had a lot of stuff happen with like photos and with dowsing rods or witching rods. If you don't know what that is, come on our tour. Anyway, Dusty, any input on our haunted happenings?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That is just not worth it. Why? She just basically gave her life for a guy that wasn't even faithful to her, and that makes me so upset.
Yeah, it's like Hercules with Meg.
Okay.
She sold her soul to Hades. I'm bringing up
to be clear, in the Disney movie, not in the actual mythology.
In real life.
In the Disney movie, no. Yeah.
All right, Dusty, go ahead and tell the good people what our first story is about.
Our first story with what the demon teddy bears is about, what a lot of people call a hell house, or the most haunted house in America. I don't know if anybody is aware. It's a Sallie house. Yeah, so the Sallie house.
So freaky.
It just looks rough in that picture there. I think it probably looked better when they moved in, but it's a haunted house in Atchison, Kansas, and it was built around the turn of the century, and it was then occupied by the Finney family. So Dr. Finney, he was a doctor, a physician, Michael Finney and his family. And what's so funny?
It's a funny last name, Finney.
Finney?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I guess Finney. Well, the Finney family, actually, they lived there for almost a century. They ended up, they kind of left around 1947, and then it just kind of became, rented to various people throughout there. So they were there for quite a while. But the doctor, this is a story this is a relevant story, so I'm going to tell it. Apparently, a woman frantically came to the doctor's. Now they lived kind of in the back and upstairs, and his office was towards the front. So his practice was there. So people came to him there for, his physician work. Anyway, a woman frantically came to his office with her, her daughter, and apparently her daughter had collapsed of abdominal pain, and she was really worried. So the doctor, Dr. Finney, right, had diagnosed an appendicitis, and he was worried that the appendix was going to burst really soon. Really? So he decided to go ahead and start operating as soon as possible, and he began operating before the anesthesia fully took effect. So, essentially she's screaming. She's on the table screaming, and she's screaming until she becomes pale and goes limp. She died there on the operating table. She's about 6 or 7 at the time.
Aww.
Well, at the time, nice. Yeah, she was real young. So just think about the last thing that she was aware of, because it's going to kind of pop up maybe later. Last thing she was aware of. Yeah, and the last thing she was aware of is a man essentially torturing her. She didn't. Maybe he wasn't, but that's kind of probably how she felt. She was 6, 7, and she probably had a lot of pain, like you said. But yeah, so the Finneys lived there on and off kind of until 1947, and then it was rented to various families. Now, the most famous family you probably heard of, if you've ever heard of the Sallie house, is the Pickman family. Mm-hmm. In the late 1990s, or the early 1990s, actually. 1993, I believe, is when they moved in. I wrote it down. Nope, 1992, December. I was close.
Liar. Oh, no, sorry.
I was close. Yeah, but they lived there for 2 years before they decided to leave, and they have so much. And I'm going to say that most of what I read was from the Sallie house website, which is hosted by Deborah Pickman herself. So I got a lot of the story from there as well. And they are not quiet about it. Like, this house has been featured probably more than just this, but on several paranormal shows, some of which you might have heard. Sightings, I think, was one of the earlier ones, Sightings. And then Sightings, the movie also, The Heartland Ghost. So there's also a couple movies about it. You also have Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Witness, A Haunting. There's a Prime Video movie that I saw, Prime Video, called The Sally House, Gateway to the Paranormal. BuzzFeed Unsolved did something. They have had so many investigators that have been there. So there's just a lot that has happened. I'm going to go into a bit of it, just a little bit, bear with me here, on some of the experiences they had. Now, the Pickmans moved in December 1992, we established, not 93. Yeah. And most of what I'm going to say here happened between January and July of 93. So they noticed when they moved in, it was pretty quiet at first. Now, she was also expecting. So she was pregnant. And
Deborah was pregnant.
Yeah, well, not Tony. Thank you. It wasn't Tony. But yeah, Deborah was pregnant. She was expecting a son.
Listen, it's 2020. There have been pregnant men. Just saying. Anyway, continue.
All right. So yeah, they did notice though, and like little things, that people probably wouldn't expect, like led to a haunting at first, like their dog. So the room upstairs, the room they made the nursery, the dog would bark, kind of sit at the threshold and just bark at seemingly nothing, So they had a dog bark, and I did that for about a week. Kind of stopped after like a week or 10 days. But also their cats.
10 days.
A week, 7 to 10 days, Renee. A week to 10 days. Yeah.
Business days?
What?
Business days? Never mind. Continue.
Anyway, they also had cats. Now, another rule here, always pay attention to your animals. Always. Their cats would apparently watch something, like frantically watch something that was kind of like seemed to be above their heads, like floating above their heads. They don't know what the cats were looking at, but all the cats, like if a cat spots a bug, which is probably what they thought, like a fly or something, and the cat's just trying to get it. Exactly.
Literally.
Yeah. They had a lot of electrical problems. So their microwave or their stove timer would randomly go off at random times, randomly. Yeah. And lights. Okay. So they had the living room light. They installed a fan with a light on the ceiling, and the light would randomly, I keep saying randomly, the light would dim every single, the random light would randomly dim every random night. No, it would dim every single night, but they didn't attach it to any kind of dimmer switch. So, it had no dim function. Also, nothing else that was on the same electrical circuit would ever malfunction, in the same way. It never would dim. It was just that one room that would just dim every single night. So that was a little strange. Then they also had problems, with, they did bring in an electrician. Sorry, there was no faulty wiring found either. They did. Yeah, they got it looked at because they're like, "What's going on with our new house?"
Yeah, they didn't jump to ghosts. Is the big point.
Oh
right?
No. They did not jump to ghosts at first. They actually were in denial about it for a little while. That rhymed. I like that. Yeah. So they got a lot of cold spots, especially around the staircase, and sometimes by the front door. Now, this is kind of before they started documenting a lot of things, but once they did start documenting, they got a lot of really interesting photos, one of which, if I could have Jim bring it up, is kind of like a brownish mass on the staircase. This was one that they saw a couple times. They're not sure what the brownish mass was, but there was one kind of closer to Christmas. They actually got photos with two different, there it is there. That is, I don't know, like that's strange to me. But they, so this is one of the, this
smudge.
But they, yeah,
it's strange.
But and notice the stairs there. They're super carpeted. They look really fuzzy. But anyway,
for you,
right? But anyway, they around Christmas time they got two apparitions, two anomalies. It's not just a river in Egypt. Yeah, they got two anomalies. And they were like, whoa, maybe there's more than one presence here. So they got that brownish mass as well, again, and a like a marbleized kind of mass, a more happier looking one probably. But they got some cold spots. They got a lot of interesting photos. Way too many for me to keep track of here.
Yeah.
But so this is where it starts to get a little weird. This nursery is creepy, I'm not gonna lie. Not for like the decorations or anything, just because of, you know, what happens in it. So they had problems with their portable phone too, going on the electrical stuff. Their portable phone, which was probably like super cool, I don't know, had problems. Yeah, it had a lot of problems in the nursery. They couldn't get connection. She would, you know, if she was on a call, she would always lose connection when she went into the nursery. However, as she stepped out into the hallway right outside the nursery, it was fine. You know, the call would resume totally fine. But inside the nursery, they couldn't really get like connection. But yes, so there was this like wind up musical toy above the crib, right? And apparently it would start spinning and playing music on its own all the time. Just kind of go off. Yeah, like, you know, like a...
Oh, I thought you said spitting at first. I was like, what? Nope,
it didn't do that.
That would have been a different level.
That's crazy. What?
So it's spinning. I actually remember this. It was a wind-up toy, and it was spinning in a circle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it would play its music. You know, it's music on its own because it played music for the baby too. So, and as well as a lot of like other musical toys that she had around the room would also turn themselves on, play music, make sounds, you know. So at this point, I'm wondering, oh, bye, Roger.
Bye, Roger.
At this point, I'm wondering, like, what were they thinking the problem was, you know, like, whoa, all these weird things are happening. All these toys are turning themselves on. Must be an electrical problem.
Yeah, I really don't know. Like, what the toy thing I would have been like, ghost. Like, how do you get around that? You know, like,
yeah. And then, you know, with all the electrical problems, like just their vacuum, they would plug like what you said earlier, they would plug the vacuum in, and it would turn off all the time, or their stereo or their TV, depending on what they did last, it would do the opposite. So like if they were watching it or listening to it, they turned it off, got halfway up the stairs, it would turn back on all the time. Just all the time. If they turned it on, it would just turn off. So I don't know. I would be getting frustrated. I'd be like, what? Listen, all right. I don't know what's happening, but we need like new TVs and stuff.
So I remember with the nursery, I think you're going to get here, so I don't want to spoil it, but there was like a complaint from the neighbor. Like the neighbor had like said something. Go ahead, tell them.
Actually, that's next. Well, I'm going to mention this first because, I mean, it seems probably like a normal thing, but when the baby was born, they named him Taylor. When the baby was born, he would actually wake up every hour on the hour, which probably isn't normal. I don't know. I've never had a baby.
Me either.
I know they wake up a lot, but like every hour on the hour, inevitably, every single night. And they were getting exhausted, you know, because even if he was like changed and fed and whatever, he would wake up.
Didn't know what was wrong with them.
Yeah, he would wake up, and so it was a little strange, and they eventually had to get her sister to come take care of the baby in the middle of the night so that they could get some sleep. So her sister, you know, ends up joining in on all these stories. But yeah, so they felt kind of like maybe something was disturbing the baby, which is why he kept waking up. Now, what you said about the neighbors, they did, Deborah was talking to a neighbor once, kind of like in the backyard, you know, like, hey, neighbor, how's it going? And the neighbor did mention, you know, why do you keep the nursery light on all night? And at this point, Taylor, the baby, is actually sleeping in their room, you know, in the master bedroom, in his little crib bed. So the baby's not even in the room. And, you know, they're like, the light's not on at night. We don't turn the light on. The baby's not even in there, you know. No reason why the light should be on. And they said, yeah, every single night, the light's on all night. We can see it from here.
Our house, yeah.
Yeah, so that was shocking to them too. They didn't even know the light was on. So like, what, did the ghost turn the light off when they got up in the morning?
Maybe he was trying to conserve energy. I don't know.
No, well, if he was trying to conserve energy, he probably wouldn't have had the light on all night to begin with. But
that's valid.
Yeah. So another strange thing, apparently they found mold on Tupperware in the cabinets, like the cupboards, on fresh dog food they poured that morning. They would find mold on it, and they would find mold on fridge magnets and pots and pans. They just kept, it was weird, you know.
That is weird.
random
That's not a
mold.
good sign either, actually.
It's not a good sign, and I'm glad you said that. We'll get to it later, though. But anyway, so, okay, sometime in July, Deborah, right, freshly decorated the nursery with bears, like stuffed bears and toys. She put them meticulously around the room. So there's even this little mini wicker chair that she had, like a wicker rocking chair that she had, and she put one teddy bear there to sit, cute. And she put a bunch all over the nursery. Well, that's funny because now her sister-in-law actually, so Tony's sister, right, actually they were at his family's house, and she had swung by herself to give them, like, drop them off a high chair, and she went to his parents' house right afterwards because she seemed nervous. She was like, I just wanted you to know that I was at your house. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. But she didn't really say anything after that. Well, when they got home, they went into the nursery, and they actually Deborah found all the teddy bears had been in a circle in the middle of the floor, sitting perfectly upright with facing outwards. And she was like, this is really weird. Why is it like this? And I guess, her first thought was probably his sister, because she was here, so she called her. And she was like, did you happen to notice anything? And she was like, no, why? So they told her, and, she's like, man,
Did
when
you
I
make
was
a sacrificial circle of dolls.
because I would have to ask you to stop.
Yeah, you're gonna have to not do that in my infant baby's room.
Exactly, yeah, but it wasn't her, and she mentioned then that the reason she was so nervous was because when she went to drop off that high chair, she felt awful. Like, she said it was such a strange feeling. And when she went into the nursery, to look at it, she got this this cold, strange feeling and the complete overwhelming, unsettling. She didn't really know why. And she's left as soon as she could. And that was when she went straight to his parents' house to find them and tell them that she was there. She just kind of, I guess, got her nerves along the way and was like, never mind. It was probably nothing, and didn't tell them any of that. But she told her, after she heard this about the bears. Now, of course, they're, thinking it's just a prank. Apparently, Tony's brother likes to prank them a lot. So, they're like, must have been him. So they, she picks up all the bears, puts them back, and they walk downstairs. And now at this point, it's her husband and her sister, the three of them. She walks back down the stairs. Now, later, as they walk down the stairs, they look back up, behind them, and from there they can see kind of the entrance of the nursery, and the light came back on. The light was on, and they were like, what the heck? Why is the light on? So they went back up the stairs, and they again saw, a bear in the middle of the floor on his back. Light was on, floor was on his back. The one from the wicker chair. So the bear from the wicker chair, that rhymed also, I liked it, was on the floor on its back, in the middle, like in the center. And so they're like, all right, one of us is playing a joke. And they were determined at this point to figure out it was just a prank. So, they fix it up, whatever, go back down, holding on to each other, kept each other within sight. Deborah goes back up later. Again, they kept peeking, nothing was happening, no light. Deborah goes back up later to go to the bathroom or something, peeks in, and that bear is right back in the middle of the floor, same spot, same position on its back. So now they're getting ghost,
right?
Ghost, maybe, I don't know. So they're like, maybe it's a child, maybe it's a nurturing woman, maybe that's why it's so interested in my baby.
Maybe that's why it's making sacrificial circles.
All right, maybe she's just playing with the toys, Renee. Sacrificial teddy bear circle. What is this? All right, no, but so. Maybe get oh my gosh. Same night, Tony actually sees a teddy bear that apparently teddy bears were all over the house. Sees a teddy bear on the TV stand downstairs spin around completely. Just spun around by itself. And they all kind of ran upstairs and they ended up sleeping all together in the master bedroom. So they kind of huddled in there for the night. And then they told his brother about it the next day, and his brother actually took a photo of the teddy bear the next day. They're laughing about it, making it all humorous. And he says, Well, if you're here, you want your picture taken, right? And he goes to snap a photo, but right before he snapped that photo, the teddy bear spun around again.
Yeah.
Like right in front of him, teddy bear just spun around. So now his brother at this point is like, nope, I'm not touching that, So they ended up deciding to stay at Tony's parents, for the day. And they're like trying to pack everything up as quick as they can. And while he's packing some stuff up, he's kind of like at the couch trying to get the car seat ready. He gets this like burning feeling on his back.
No.
Yeah, he gets this burning feeling on his back, and they just ignored it. They were like, let's go, let's go. They get out. So they ended up getting to his parents' house, and they were like, let me see your back. And they lifted up his shirt, and he had 3 long scratches down his back, really distinct red scratches, and it kind of in a place where, I don't know, it's like way there on his back. And, that's a little concerning, I think, to begin with. Throughout this whole process, whatever this was, didn't like Tony, that's for sure, because he got scratched off the wazoo in this house. I'm talking like throughout these 2 years, on his chest, his arm, his back, his neck, like he got ripped to shreds. So something didn't like Tony. But yeah, they ended up having a friend who also happened to be a sidekick over. Her name was Barbara Connor. Barbara Connor is kind of where they get their start here. They're acknowledging maybe it's a ghost, maybe it's something not normal. So they invite her over, and I'm going to go through this. So she picks up on a little girl named Sally, right? Which is how we get Sally House.
Sally House, right?
Sally House, yeah. So a little girl named Sally. This is also after Barbara's visit when they started to like document the things that actually happened. And it's funny. Tony and Deborah are actually kind of like investigators now. This took a turn on them, I guess. It's pretty cool. But
I can only imagine.
Yeah, so they started, to record things from here on. Barbara said she's about 7 years old and she felt a discomfort in the abdomen. Right. She also said a pain in the hand and a toothache. I don't know about all that, but abdomen, right, could be the little girl that apparently had that botched.
Dr. Finney.
Finney. Dr. Finney. Yeah, Dr. Finney. So apparently, according to Barbara, Sally thinks Deborah's too bossy and has too many rules, whatever. It's funny. But
like, you just a child. You need to calm down.
It's funny you say that because
I'll ground a ghost.
Barbara told them to discipline her as a child, like to treat her as a flesh and blood child, and they're like, we just had a baby. Now we have a 7-year-old. Like, what? So
we're moving too fast.
So they were told to do that. And that maybe, Barbara kind of felt that Sally suffered at the hand of a man, right? Maybe that's why she doesn't care too much for Tony. But here you have Deborah, who is kind of a motherly figure now, and she feels comfortable around them, supposedly. Now, they felt bad. They felt since she was Deborah felt this way, that she was playing with all these teddy bears, that maybe she wanted a toy of her own. So she got her a doll, offered her a doll of her own. And then eventually, apparently, Barbara said there was one spot in the nursery she liked to hang out in. So it explains a lot about the nursery, dog barking, whatever. They put a box of toys in that corner. And even a legal pad, like a clipboard with some paper and crayons so that she could color or write. They have now toys for Sally. And apparently Sally felt that she was the baby's guardian angel or like protector. And then here we have, I'm sorry, this is going really long. Here we have Deborah, who thinks maybe my baby's been waking up every hour on the hour. Maybe he was a Sid's baby, and him waking up every single hour on the hour was Sally reminding him to breathe, something like that. So maybe Sally's been protecting my child.
Okay.
Well, so now nice. She really likes Sally. She has like this place in her heart for Sally now. So she does.
Except
kind of.
She's been Sally. Molding your dog food and magnets and.
There's a lot of other weird things that really, don't make sense in the way of Sally. But like I said, they would find, apparently the cold spots that were on the stairs. Sally likes to go up and down the stairs with them. And Yeah, so that's, they would get all those masses on the stairs and those cold spots. It was her with them, going like running up and down the stairs with them. So it's all been Sally. Now, like I said, Deborah left a clipboard with paper and crayons, and she had actually written on the clipboard, "Hello, Sally, how old are you?" And later that same night, after Barbara left, that same night, she went back and she saw that something had been written on the paper in like a childlike handwriting, almost kind of scrawled across the paper. It said 7, like. She thinks maybe like meant like she likes
I like you.
Yeah, she likes the communication they had, anything. So not only now do they have electrical problems, they actually had a lot of decorative candles around the house. They never lit them. They were just decorative. And they actually would light themselves. So now they have active fires being lit around the house by a ghost, right? Can you imagine explaining that to the fire department? We don't even have matches, sir. We just...
Our 7-year-old ghost daughter lit the fire. Sorry about her.
7-year-old ghost daughter. I like it. Yeah. And they would find sometimes burnt fingerprints on a candle. Like they found these random burnt fingerprints on a candle. But yeah, the candles would light themselves. The pictures on the wall sometimes would be upside down. Like they would have family photos and they would be upside down. One of them was shattered. So they would find
not good.
All their photos. Yeah. And they would, so they would be taking pictures. They had like a Polaroid. They would take a lot of photos with. And they even once saw in the nursery in a photo, they didn't see this at first, but they went back and looked. The crayon was actually standing up on its point. So the crayon was standing up by itself, which was really strange. One more really quick thing. She actually got her a baby doll. She thought that maybe since she liked playing with Taylor so much that she would like a boy baby doll. So
you were talking about this before, but you went off on something else for a second that was more important, I think. But you were talking about how she wanted to get him a present, and so
2 different occasions. This is a new doll. She offered her up a doll at first when Barbara was there, but now she wants to give her like a present, like to open, because she's like, what more fun is it when you're a kid than to rip open a present? So she actually does. She
gets an adult too.
I know, right? She gets a boy baby doll, wraps it. She takes it out of the box and takes off all the twist ties and everything because she's like, she probably won't have a good time with that. Takes off all the twist ties, puts it back in the box, wraps it up, leaves it there in her corner, and it sits there for like weeks. Nothing seemingly happened to it. She's debating whether she should go in and open it for Sally, but she doesn't want to ruin it, so she just leaves it, forgets about it kind of. One day she ends up walking into the nursery and finds the boy baby doll in the crib. So she's like, whoa, and she looks at the box, and the box hasn't been touched. Like the nothing was ripped. There was a weird dent in one of the flaps. And, it seems that that's kind of how the toy came out. But she didn't put the dent there. It wasn't there when she wrapped it. So this is, like, really interesting. The ghost unwrapped a present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And there's now another time during a Christmas party where her brother-in-law goes upstairs to get their coats to leave. And this is where things also are kind of like, what? A baby doll, right? Not the same one, different one, with like a cotton mop hair and straw hat on fire on those carpeted stairs. Yeah. On the carpeted stairs that we saw earlier, which is like probably not a good idea. So now there's this baby doll with cotton and straw on fire on the carpet. And Deborah had to yell at Sally. So Deborah's now yelling at the ghost, saying that she can't do that. You are going to kill everybody and you can't do that. And having to tell this ghost
spanking.
Having to tell this ghost not to set things on fire. I'm sorry, that's not funny, but yeah. So ended up, they were like, if this is how you want to get our attention, that's not okay. So they actually got an oil lamp. They got her an oil lamp and set it on like a side table. And they were like, if you have to set something on fire, set this on fire to get our attention. And she would sometimes. Apparently, sometimes it would be lit on fire. So now we have like a pyromaniac ghost, setting things on fire. And yeah, so apparently Tony had issues addressing the ghost for a while, and Sally has even bitten him before on the back of the thigh. while he
Oh
was
no.
lying on the couch. So he has like teeth marks. Didn't break the skin, but it was like little teeth marks.
Not I, said the fly. I'd be
Nope.
punching a ghost. I don't care.
Not I said the fly. Also, their cat died in the dryer. I'm sorry, that's not funny.
Oh my god.
But they accidentally put their cat in. Well, they didn't put the cat in the dryer. The cat was in the dryer because they left the dryer open and didn't know the cat was in the dryer. And so Deborah left. Tony starts the dryer again, and then he goes to start vacuuming, and the vacuum kept turning off. And he ended up yelling at Sally. He was like, "Quit doing that! You know, cut it out." And it worked. The vacuum began to work, and he heard thuds, and he thought maybe Deborah put tennis shoes in the dryer, you know. But they came back later to find their cat.
This happened to my cousin and my aunt.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I think his name was Booger Man or something like that.
Okay, well, yeah, so they accidentally killed their cat, and they think that maybe Sally was trying to warn them. You know, that was why she kept turning off the vacuum. But yeah, so they have photos, EVPs. There is, you know, theory that Sally is demonic, like kind of what you were saying. I mean, or that maybe it's not Sally, but maybe there are several presences in the house. You know, they were talking about, because they found those 2 different anomalies, you know, around Christmas time. They did find that brownish one, and they found like a marbleized. So they found several different presences. And I mean, there is clearly something maybe not so happy. They thought maybe the one attacking Tony would be a middle-aged woman. There's apparently a middle-aged woman that's been seen there. Maybe Sally's mom, you know. A Civil War soldier. Wow, I had this written down somewhere.
There's a lot of activity.
The Finney family, several of the Finney family, a prankster, a young boy named Frank, and then a negative entity older than the house that apparently likes to hang out in the basement. Remember, if you have a basement, forget it exists. But yeah, so
go in it.
The back of the basement. Maybe this is what, because I spent a lot of time wondering what this negative presence was, and maybe that's what it is, you know. But then apparently after the Pickmans moved out, a woman moved in who liked to sacrifice animals, and she was like a lady Satanist, and there's like a pentagram that she painted in the basement floor. So now whatever was there definitely has been enhanced, and it's just, I'm sorry, I got like super passionate for a second, but
you're fine.
Yeah, so they did move out, and Ghost Adventures, all right, actually did an investigation. You know, they did a whole episode. Guess what? Zach didn't want to go in the basement, so he sent a child down into the basement instead. Anyway. Yeah, but they went down and they saw kind of where the pentagram was painted. They tried to like paint over it. Whoever lived there before tried to paint over it, but there's still a big circle. And down there, the child psychic almost fainted, and Tony and Deborah were actually there. He convinced them to also go down into the basement that they didn't want to go down into, and he still wouldn't go in. But yeah, so
I've been dragging him by his fake spray tan down that basement.
All right, anyway, we're gonna keep it neutral anyway.
You're right.
But yeah, something made the child psychic like faint, and at the same time actually burned Tony. When he came back up, there was a huge welt on the back of his neck. It looked like a burn blister. So, I mean, a lot of, you know, different paranormal, the Kansas paranormal, and there's been a lot of investigations done. I want to go ahead and cut it off here because I have been talking for a while.
Yeah, but I think it's all relevant, and I all think it's good. It's good evidence. And Sally House is a very popular investigation spot. It's like one of the most haunted places in America. Supposedly
one of like the most haunted house in America here, but because I can go on, yeah, because yeah.
Do you have any other input? Anything else you need to say?
Yeah, we should stay there one night too.
Girl, on your own, you can stay there. I'm gonna stay at my house. It's okay.
Are you gonna pull a Zach on me? You're not gonna go.
I'm gonna pull a Ryan Bagara, and I'm gonna stay in my house.
I don't know what that is. Okay.
We're going to move on to our second story of the night, which is the Villisca murder house. Jim's going to pull the picture of the murder house for us here. The Villisca murder house is...
Oh, Renee!
What?
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention something.
What?
Tony actually saw Sally once in the house. He actually was... I'm so sorry. He was getting a drink once and turned around, and the little girl was literally sitting there staring at him. And he like dropped his glass.
I would too.
Yeah, and then he looked down and he did a drawing. Yeah, that was what I forgot. I did this drawing. He ran upstairs to tell Deborah and was just so excited he couldn't talk. So he drew it out, and this is the drawing that Tony Pickman did of the little girl that he saw.
I would not. That is not a cute. No.
It was totally cute. She's got big old cheeks and eyes. And
I said no.
Honey bunches of no. Yeah.
Punching a kid.
Oh my god. So, okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot about that too. That's important. The Villisca murder house is in Villisca, Ohio. Nope, Iowa. I always get Ohio and Iowa confused for whatever reason. Iowa. It is an attraction for paranormal investigators today. They have investigations that you can just do for recreational fun. That picture is from 1912. That's how the house looked when Sarah and Josiah Moore were still living there. Living is the key word. But yeah, it's not that expensive to stay. I mean, if you have a couple of people come with you, a team of investigators, it's $430 to spend the night.
Per person, or could we split it?
No, you can split it as a total. So, June 9th, 1912, Sarah and Josiah Moore were getting their children settled for bed. Their daughter, Kathleen Mary, had asked her parents if her friends could stay over. Now, Kathleen had been spending the day with Ina and Lena Stillinger. I hate that their names rhyme. It's so hard to say. Because the family had prepared an organization called Children's Day, and Children's Day was performing at the Presbyterian Church. They were singing and acting out biblical verses and whatnot, and it was just supposed to be a fun day. So they agree that after Children's Day, Ina and Lena can stay the night. So Villisca was a very small and quiet town. It was not really. I want to say it was not really a tourist town. It was historic, yes, but it was just a very safe place to raise children. In fact, it was so safe that nobody questioned when a man was walking up to the Moore's house wielding an axe that he would be doing any harm to the family. A lot of people didn't see it, to be fair. It was around 1 a.m, and the whole area of Villisca is farmland, so most farmers are asleep at 1 a.m. They get up quite early. And apparently this killer, he picks the lock to the Moore house, he takes the oil lamp off their front porch, and he lights his way into the house. And the Stillinger sisters were sleeping in the guest room on the bottom floor, on the ground floor. He ignores them. He marches up to the second floor to Sarah and Josiah's room, and he bludgeons them to death. I guess I don't know. I guess he figured that they were stronger, so take out the strongest link first. I don't know. He then proceeds to kill the rest of the children: Herman, who was 11, Arthur Boyd, who was 7, Paul, who was 5, Kathleen, who was 10, and then he picks off Ina and Lena Stillinger on the way out. It should be noted that Lena was the only one who was awake when she was murdered. She was the only one that saw her murderer, saw her killer, and she had defensive wounds on her to prove that she had fought back. He ends up leaving the keys and the oil lamp on the porch and disappears into the darkness. The next morning, Mary Pickham, so it's interesting, we have the Pickmans and now Mary Pickham. She wakes up around 5 a.m. She would be good friends with Ephraim. And she becomes concerned around 7 a.m. So it's 5 a.m. She's doing her laundry. She's doing her morning chores. Around 7 a.m. she notices that the Moore family has still not come out to start their chores. They started roughly around the same time as her, sometimes even earlier. And she decides that the chickens are probably getting stir crazy and hungry. So she goes to knock on their door and see what's going on and see if she wants them to let their chickens out. She doesn't get a knock. She knocks on the door, but she doesn't get an answer, obviously. She lets their chickens out. She goes back to her house and she makes a phone call to Ross Moore, who was Josiah's brother. Ross ends up coming within the hour. He, I guess she says, hey, something weird's going on. They're not answering the door, and they wouldn't just leave their animals to starve. So he comes and he inspects the outside of the farm. He notices that the shed was broken into because the killer obviously broke into the shed to get Josiah's axe. And he notices that the guest bedroom window was closed off with Josiah's clothes. Somebody had made like makeshift curtains out of Josiah's clothes and put them over the window. And all of the curtains to the house were pulled tightly shut, something that Sarah Moore never did. There wasn't electricity in their house, so when the sun rose, those curtains were open. That was the only light source in their house. He thought this was odd, and he decided to get the key out of his pocket, the spare key that Josiah had given him, and he unlocks the front door, walks into the parlor, doesn't find anything odd, but there's an eerie feeling in the house. Something is clearly wrong. He makes his way to the guest bedroom first, and that is when he finds the bodies of Ina, and Lena Stillinger. Lena had been posed in I'm going to put this in the most like PG way I can. She had been posed in a very adult positioning. And it looked like there had been abuse done at first. However, I do want to report to you that sounds really gross at first. It's still gross that she was murdered and whatnot, but the doctors and medical examiners later confirmed that she was not desecrated in any way, and it just so happened to be that he tossed her body in that way. So after Ross sees this, he obviously tells Mary to call the police, and Mary's like, yeah, sure. She runs back to her house. She calls the peace officer. So this town is so small that they don't have a police officer. They have a peace officer. And the peace officer was like the sheriff. He was like a congressman. I don't know. He did like several jobs. He was like a man. Poor guy, he had a lot of hats to put on. And in order to get a hold of him, he wasn't even at like the police station. The guy didn't really have a police station. She had to call her friend who worked downtown. And he said, oh, Hank Horton, he's at the hardware store across the street. I'll go over and tell him what's going on. So this friend was a blabbermouth and walks over there and is just like, everybody's dead!
Sorry.
Hank Horton rushes over there as fast as he can, but so does the rest of the town. The rest of the town's like, I want to see a dead body today.
Oh my God.
So they attend with him. Horton does not do a good job of containing the scene. In fact, he doesn't contain it at all. They said that hundreds of people from this town fled to the scene of the crime and tampered with evidence.
Well, how do you contain it? You're one person. And
I don't know.
Do you have a gun? I don't know. And can you really
He's a peace officer?
You can't threaten people, but like, get out.
I don't know.
West Town ain't big enough for the two of us, you know? Like he just like, I don't know. This guy is like something out of a cartoon. He was trying his best, okay? He ends up trying to arrest somebody because a man went up to the Moore's bedroom, Josiah and Sarah's bedroom, and he decided it was okay to pick up a piece of Josiah's skull fragment off the ground. Josiah's face, by the way, he was hit about 40 times in the face. His eyeballs were nothing but like jelly, and his face looked like a big old pile of blood pudding. It was just not a good thing. That's the thing people actually eat. Don't call it that.
Sorry. He picks up a piece of Josiah's skull fragment, cleans it off in a piece of evidence. So there was a dishpan that was full of water that the killer had washed his hands of blood in. And this guy decides to stick the skull fragment in it, just clean it off the water, and stick it in his little pocket. And Hank Horton's like, stop. Who goes there? And the guy just like takes the skull fragment and leaves. So yeah, not well contained. Eventually the National Guard came and helped them, and they closed off the scene. However, they done goof too. We're going to get to that in a minute. By the time they were able to contain the scene, obviously it was too late. I mean, somebody took the guy's skull fragment, to be fair. They did find the scene was strange, and even though that stuff was tampered with and contaminated and all their evidence was no longer evidence. Yeah. They did say that Lena had been killed awake and everybody else had been sleeping with no signs of struggle. The killer had hacked them to death with an axe that belonged to Josiah. He then covered them. This was weird. He covered them with bed sheets and blankets, but only their faces. He left their bodies visible, but only covered their faces. He covered the windows with Josiah's clothing. We knew that. He washed his hands in a small pan of water, and then he decided to go down to their icebox and make himself a snack. I kid you not.
This sounds like tiring work. That was a lot that he just did.
You're right. He attempted to wipe the axe clean with a shirt of Josiah's, but it was not possible. It was just soaked in blood.
Well, what's the point?
I don't know.
Was he going to keep it?
What was the point of covering their faces but not their entire bodies?
It's like the psychological reason, probably. But I mean,
guess. They also found that the killer had tried to steal a 2-pound slab of bacon from Moore's icebox.
I'm sorry.
He wrapped it in a dish towel. Like, this is the worst burglar ever. He wrapped it in a dish towel and then ultimately decided on his way out, nah, I'm not taking it, and set it just in front of the door as he left. Like, he couldn't take the bacon with him. So, you must be wondering who done it. Fingerprint technology was new at the time.
Fingerprint technology
was new at the time, but it did exist. And the department figured, because we don't have our log of people's fingerprints in Villisca, we just shouldn't do it at all. But it wouldn't have mattered because 1,000 people came into the crime scene.
And it touched skull fragments and stuff, so.
Yeah, and people are saying it doesn't make sense that he would have only covered their faces, and they're wondering if the bodies were covered and that
people uncovered it?
Right. They also said that because of the lack of this was made me so mad. There was a local druggist. He had come with the hordes of people to take pictures, and he told Hank Horton, I want to take some photos. And Hank Horton was like, no, I don't know about that. Let's wait for the National Guard. So he's just sitting there with his camera while people are just ruining the evidence. And the National Guard starts doing their thing, containing the area, kicking people out. And he says, oh, can I take pictures for you guys? And they're like, no, get out of here before we arrest you. So no photos of this were taken at all. God. With no evidence, the case ends up going cold. It would soon take over just about a decade for them to finally bring a suspect into court. So many thought that the killer was Reverend George Kelly. Jim is going to pull up a picture of George Kelly for us here.
He looked like the killer.
Yeah, he looks a little crazy if you ask me. They thought he committed the murders because the medical examiners always said that the murders occurred between midnight and 5 a.m. Now, when they're being murdered on June 10th, so they were murdered after midnight, right? June 10th, that morning, George Kelly is boarding a train out of town at 5:30 a.m. While he is on the westbound train, number 5 train, westbound out of Villisca, he is sitting around a dozen of other people, and he is telling them about, there was this gruesome murder of a family of 8 people. But this is a big issue because they haven't even been discovered yet. You have to remember that Rossmore doesn't discover the bodies until about 8 a.m. So a little fishy, if you ask me. Kelly had arrived in Villisca on June 9th for the Children's Day event. Witnesses say that he was just obsessed with the Stillinger girls. He watched every performance they were in. He followed them around. He's just a super weird dude. He was a traveling minister. He traveled as a Methodist minister throughout the Midwest, and many folks just felt uncomfortable by him. There was just something really off about him. He had spent some time in an insane asylum after having several mental breakdowns. And because of his ties to the Stillingers and his obsession with the Stillingers at the Children's Day performance, Kelly does end up getting jailed and heavily interrogated. However, in August of 1917, Kelly writes a confession that he did kill the victims. He claims that God whispered to me, suffer the children that come onto me. Again, the dude's crazy. He's just out of his mind. They bring him to trial, and just before they're about to charge him guilty, that's when he drops the bomb that he lied, he didn't kill anyone, and that the police pressured him into saying that he did. And of course, with lack of evidence, Kelly is acquitted of a crime and never to be tried again. There were other suspects. It's been over 100 years since this murder's happened, right? Some people think that the killer is Reverend Kelly. Others think that the killer was never tried and never found. The other two big suspects in this, well, there was like littler ones with no substantial evidence, was Frank Jones, who was Joe's ex-boss. Apparently, they were in competition together, like with a business, and Josiah was taking a lot of money and customers from him, so that was like the reason, his motive for killing him. Again, no substantial evidence to prove this happened, though. William Mansfield was the other big theory. Mansfield was a killer that they called Blackie, and he traveled across the Midwest and may have even been in the Axeman murders. He actually might have been the Axeman of New Orleans. So they're saying that there's a lot of similar cases that are in that general area, that it could have been Mansfield that was performing some murders, and maybe even the poor Villisca murders. So today the house is open for investigation. You can stay the night if you want to. However, it should be noted that one spirit in particular is angry, and believed to be maybe the killer himself. In fact, there was a recreational investigation done there in 2014. This investigator's name was Robert Larson. He's a 37-year-old dude just having fun. I guess it was like for his birthday or something. Him, his wife, his mom, his dad, they're all doing this like paranormal lockdown thing there. And he is sitting in the Stillinger guest bedroom. And the mom and the dad are outside talking on like the porch. And I guess his wife was outside having a cigarette or something like that. And they all have radios. Well, he radioed them for help. He's screaming and crying, begging them to come and help him. So they all rush inside. They see him in the guest bedroom with a knife stabbed in his chest. They claim they do not know why he stabbed himself, if he stabbed himself, or how he even got a knife in the first place. The knife was not his. The building did not have any knives in it. They don't know where the knife came from. In fact, Robert would later go on to say that he really doesn't remember what happened or much of that time. He almost died. He was in critical condition from this.
I don't like this. Ghosts setting things on fire and then stabbing people.
Stabbing people? I don't know. Bacon being stolen? No. So the house started doing having investigations in the late 90s, early 2000s, and one of the first paranormal teams to investigate the house was the Prism and Miller paranormal team. They caught some really great evidence. We're going to share some of that with you. One of their great photos that they have is this photo coming up here just in a second. It is taken on a relatively new camera, a professional camera. There's no filter added, and you can clearly see there is something standing in the way of that walkway, that part of the house.
Looks like 3 little girls.
Yeah, it does. It looks like 3 little girls. I agree, or 3 children. It's super obvious. You can actually even see their clothes, what kind of clothes they were wearing. It's weird. The team has been collecting evidence since 2004 at specifically the Villisca house, and I'm going to share with you some EVPs that they have gotten. EVP stands for electronic voice phenomena. I always get EMF and EVP confused. So this is just chilling proof that the children are still there. Take a look at these audio clips. I think you'll enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, sweetie, can you close the door?
There's no children at this investigation. That woman is alone in there by herself. Who are you?
Sounds like, how can I help you to me? How can I help you?
It's definitely a child's voice, though.
feel the breeze again.
It hurts. Would you like to talk to us?
So this one's weird. I don't really know what it's saying. It's just super weird. It almost sounds like, no, I don't want to talk to you.
These are really good.
Yeah, they caught some really good evidence there. I think that it's clearly haunted. I mean, the owners of it, they didn't believe in any of the paranormal stuff when they bought it. They just thought, oh, it'd be like a really cool gimmick for Halloween, until stuff started moving on its own in the building, like little artifacts that they had bought for the Villisca murder house. They now leave toys for the children to play with. What the owner was saying, that one time she had a bear and she left it in Paul, the 5-year-old boy's room. And she had the bear, it would be on the bed. I mean, she would come in, and the next morning, sometimes it would be sitting on the floor, or it would be in a completely different part of the house, just in general. And she always, right? Like Sally. But she always just thought it was perhaps one of the younger children playing with the toys. Dusty, any other input you have on the Villisca murder house?
Nope.
No? Well, we're going to move into our local story. It's more of like a local blurb. It's just about the Florida skunk ape. Have you ever heard of the Florida skunk ape, Dusty?
No, but it doesn't sound. Is it a cryptid? What is that? Like a?
I don't know. It's honestly,
a skunk and an ape had a baby. Is that
Bigfoot? Do you know how like different parts of the world call things Bigfoot? Like you have the abominable snowman.
Yep. All right. You know what? Let's call it Yeti. The
Yeti.
Snowman.
And then an enemy. You have a Yeti. Florida, you have a Florida skunk ape. It is basically just a big, hairy, stanky man.
Stanky? Why do we get stuck with a skunk ape? Like what?
I don't know, because we're Florida.
Sasquatch. Skunk ape.
And he smells like rotting meat. Like when people have the skunk ape around, they say that he is about 7 feet tall. He is completely covered with either black, brown, or grayish fur. He smells like rotting meat, rotting flesh, and that people think that he's some sort of paranormal occurrence, while other people think that he is just simply like an animal that has not yet been discovered.
So it's Bigfoot that smells really bad.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's big. It's pretty much Bigfoot, but it's seen in the deep woods of Florida. In fact, there was a story I was looking at about maybe 10 years ago almost in Anastasia Island, or on Anastasia Island, my bad. A father and a son were camping, and so they had set up their campsite, and they were fishing on, like, I guess the water bank there, and just having a good old time, and all of a sudden they started to smell something really bad, and it was pretty late at night. I want to say it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock that this is happening. And so they were like, oh, what is that? It must be like a skunk or something. And they started to pack up their stuff, and they were going to head over to their tent, and they saw something in the woods just by their campsite that was just as I described. It was like a big, hairy man that was peering at them through the trees. And it disappeared. It ran off without making any sound, and immediately the smell was gone. And so that's when this whole idea of, like, the Florida skunk ape maybe even being in St. Augustine came around. There has been other sightings of him as well in Anastasia Island. I mean, it is a reservation. It's just like a really nice camping area, and so it does make sense that there. I mean, there's other animals in there. It's wildlife, wild Florida, right? So it makes sense that there could be a Bigfoot or a skunk ape in our neck of the woods here, quite literally. Dusty, any input on the Florida skunk ape?
No.
Nothing. No, you don't want to meet him.
No, I mean,
you don't want to meet a big, smelly Bigfoot.
Not really. I mean, I'm not like super into the idea of meeting non-smelly Bigfoot. So,
true. What do you think? Do you think it's a demonic entity, or do you think it's just simply an animal they haven't discovered?
It could be some kind of cryptid. You know, I think that I think that that's a possibility. I think
Sure,
Because, I mean, even like Nessie, you see the Loch Ness Monster, but then you also have, even in the States, similar things. Wow, that was educational.
similar
Things, yeah, similar creatures that people spot in other lakes here. I know you have the abominable snowman in the mountains. I can't remember where. Not Tibet.
Russia and stuff like that. You have the
Whatever.
abominable snowman
Somewhere in Asia.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then you also have the Bigfoot here, and it's just like owl versus snow owl. I don't know. Nah, I'm just making no sense. But
I think it's an animal. I gotta be honest. I think it's an animal. They haven't discovered a lot of animals. I mean, I'm a very logical believer. Like, I believe in the paranormal because I've had experiences, but I also believe in science because sometimes science is right. You just have to kind of accept that. I think that this is an animal they haven't discovered that is just ginormous and smells really bad because it's
poor animal. It
human-like
just
in a
needs
way.
a bath. Maybe he got
needs a
sprayed by
hug
a
and a
skunk.
Preferably a bath first.
I don't know though what kind of animal looks like a giant hairy man, and I don't know if I wouldn't keep one as a pet. There's the really fast car sound effect I was looking for.
I know, there it is. Anyway, we're gonna head out, but thank you guys for watching. You can watch us next week next stream. We're gonna be on Friday talking to y'all. We thank you guys for watching. You can share this video, force your friends to watch, fangirl over us, do it. And send us your haunted happenings. Dusty, any last input before we say goodbye?
No.
No. Goodbye.
I can hear